I just expand a bit on the gospel series again, to just talk about what is the gospel. Because I think so often people get into their heads that the gospel is a set of theological truths, is a set of, you've got to know 20 scriptures, you've got to have to convince somebody, maybe even into apologetics, so that people understand, why there are Hitlers in the world, why there are struggles, why there are battles, and you've got to defend the faith somehow. I think that there's a much more simpler idea in the scriptures when it comes to the gospel. You'll see that in Acts chapter 2, chapter 1 and 2, when Peter stands up and speaks in this incredible moment, in fact, the beginning of chapter 2, when Peter speaks this incredible moment of the coming of the Spirit, he stands up, he is a normal man, he has walked with Jesus, and immediately he begins to share the story. And so often we think that we should dive into a scripture, into some context, or into some theological understanding. But Peter doesn't do that. All he does, he goes right back to the beginning of history. He takes a systematic approach, talking through the line of Jesus, in other words, his messianic line from David all the way through, and speaks about the history. And then he tells the story about Jesus coming, walking amongst them, being crucified upon the cross, being raised again from the dead. He tells the story about Jesus. And here's the incredible idea, that the gospel fundamentally is the story about Jesus. We think that's too simplistic. So most of us think, no, we got to study, we got to look, we got to dive, deep dives into what the gospel actually is. Actually, it is simply the story about Jesus Christ and how that story intersects with your life. I say this often in many different places, that there is a gospel according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now we need a gospel according to you. We need your name in there, because it's how the story about Jesus intersects with your life that produces a gospel according to Peter, that actually allows the gospel to be incarnated through me and speak through my life. The simplicity of that simply means that the gospel, the preaching of the gospel, is available to everyone. It is locked away from no one. There is no one in our communities, no one in our churches who cannot share the story about Jesus Christ. That in fact, he was fully God, became fully man by being incarnated in, birthed by a woman, and lived as a man upon this earth, yet sinless, died upon the cross, raised again on the third day, and now lives eternally with the Father to make intercession on our behalf, to represent us in our brokenness before the Father. There's the idea. That's the story. That's how that story actually interacts with my life. And when I encountered that story, I committed. It spoke to me. I believed. And when I believed, something happened to me. Faith rose up in me. And I became a Christian. I became born again. I became different. There's the power of the gospel. And I want us to lean back into that idea again, all of us, to make it simple and accessible for our people, rather than a deep dive into theological truths and statements, 5 spiritual laws and all 3 spiritual laws, or however many spiritual laws there are, but all these things that we're meant to know, when in fact it's accessible to everyone, that everyone can and should preach the gospel. That's how the world is to know, that we're to go into all the world and preach the gospel, as Mark 15 says. Let's take that up as a charge, simplify the process, and allow our people to have access to the gospel again. And we will see many, 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 many more come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, because it's accessible to everyone. God bless you.